And welcome to this week's edition of Break the Bank. I'm Jeff DeForest. Happy to have you guys with us here on Bleacher Brothers. And we're joined by the usual suspects in the middle there, the man in the middle. I'm looking at the man in the middle. That would be Mike Jones. And he kind of got middled last week to the tune of 1-4 after that spectacular 5-0 start that he kicked off the season with. Good to have you on, Mike. How are you, my friend?
Very good. Thanks for having me. Ready to bounce back week.
And Frank G. Frank G was a little, slow out of the chute there. He got off to a slow start, bounced back a little bit last week. 2-3. We're looking for a winning week. Frankie out of Philadelphia, PA. How are you, my friend?
Very good, Defo. Nice to see you guys again. Let's get it on. We got
Yeah,
a slow start, but we're gonna warm it up.
I feel good vibes. And here's the way we're working on Break the Bank. We have 3 community games that we're all going to select. I'm going to join you guys and try and help bury the bookmakers with this week's selections. 3 community games, and then everybody gets a chance 2 electives, 2 games of their own free choice, and we'll see if we can't get a couple of guys going again to the tune that Mike Jones exhibited at the very start when he came flying out of there and started out the season with a 5-0 beginning. All right, let's get a little review of what happened last week. Sensational week. Steve Luker, by the way, is producing the program. And he, like everybody else, was amazed. The last 2 games that we saw in the NFL, Mike, were absolutely spectacular. Many people went to sleep thinking that the Buffalo Bills had no chance to come back and bounce back against the Baltimore Ravens, 2 teams that are both about 6-1, maybe 6.5-1 to win the Super Bowl. And they clash in week number 1 in Buffalo. So the Ravens didn't have to deal with the usual conditions that would be abhorrent, which probably get underway somewhere in mid-September, having gone to Syracuse University. I know how impossible the conditions can be, but that wasn't the case. And yet, a barn burner. This was unique too, Mike. I know you're a numbers guy. This was a score that never happened before in the history of the NFL. There was never a 41-40 final
Oh, interesting.
in the
Yeah.
history of the National Football League. They had a unique score, and it was especially unique because it looked like the Bills were buried, and they come back in the fourth quarter. And then, of course, the game last night, or Monday night, rather, a couple of nights ago, you had what appeared to be a dominating performance by the Chicago Bears. J.J. McCarthy looked like he was badly miscast and not prepared to be the starting quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings. They had given him the job after Darnold had that big year. They drafted him in the first round. He misses all of last season, comes back, and I'm watching a series of 3-and-outs and thinking this guy's a bust already. Was comparing him to Jamarcus Russell maybe in terms of all-time bust, but what we knew he had a pretty good arm and a pretty good head on his shoulders. He comes back, rallies the Vikings for 21 points, and those of us who were back in the Bears, which I think both of us picked the Bears in that game and said take a shot, ended up looking for a cyanide cap. Your general observations of what happened in week number 1, and I don't know if you want to mention. Notice I left this out because in case you didn't want to discuss your overwhelming optimism you had for your New York Football Giants. So, what do you think? What were your impressions of week number 1?
Interesting. And again, ended with a blockbuster Sunday night. So I made the prediction to a couple of my friends. I think the Ravens are the best team in football, up 15 points in 5 minutes ago in the fourth quarter, which you could have gotten Buffalo at 16-1 to win the game at that point, which I always like that live betting, that long shot type heavy underdog betting, which was interesting. But yeah, this Derrick Henry fumble kind of turned the momentum. Josh Allen proves his excellence. I think defenses look like to get to catch up. Jair Alexander seemed to struggle a little bit with Coleman late in the game. And, you get complacent with that 15-point lead, 5 minutes to go. You think things are going to work. They don't run off tackle. The play right before Lamar Jackson fakes a run to Henry, takes it on bootleg for 16 yards and a first down. You think if he holds onto the ball, this doesn't happen. I mean, basically, if they ran for no yards into the line of scrimmage, they don't lose the game. The only thing that could have lost them was a turnover there. Henry goes outside. Oliver makes a great pick of the ball. Now they get an 8-point game. They still get it back after they missed a 2-point conversion, but yet 3-and-out, 4th and 2. I remember when Belichick went for it against the Colts in that early game. Everybody thought he was crazy, and he responded by saying we couldn't stop Peyton Manning at that point. That's why he did it. Well, I saw 4th and 2 at the 43-yard line, and I'm saying to myself, why not go? Why not go? Put the game on ice right then and there instead of giving it up to your defense. And there's been that conversation now that maybe the Ravens are more of an offensive team than a defensive team now. But what a spectacular game to end the first week. It was pretty incredible. And the other starry one we were going to pick the winner of this game, to me, that was the eye opener. My team is an eye closer, but this was an eye opener. Was the way Detroit got manhandled by Green Bay was kind of a little bit of a shocker to me. Jahmyr Gibbs sets an all-time NFL record for the most receptions of 10 or more with the least amount of yards, only 33 yards. That in itself tells me they couldn't get the ball downfield. They couldn't protect up front. They couldn't get the running game going. Unlike the Lions teams of the last 3 years that have been able to destroy people on both sides of the line of scrimmage, Dan Campbell type rough, tough football. So the eye-opening experience was the Ravens loss and the way the Lions were beaten were probably the two things that stuck out for me.
Frankie, I know you probably felt a lot of pain there. I don't know if you were gargling with Valium or anything, watching your Jets lose to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the irony, of course, was Aaron Rodgers coming back after the Jets had thrown in the towel on him and leading the Steelers to a dramatic come-from-behind victory. It looked like the Jets had the game in the bag. Maybe a little bit of an encouraging performance overall from the Jets, because Fields looked pretty good in the game. We didn't know what kind of thrower he was going to be, but he passed the ball well. Your impressions of the things that you saw week number 1 in the National Football League?
Week number 1, I did fall asleep for that Buffalo Bills game, and I did bet the Bills and the over. So when I woke up the first thing in the morning, I checked my phone. It's like, oh, thank you, Jesus, I bailed out here.
There you go.
On Bills and the over. But would like to say that the trend of the first week in the NFL, it's like 3 years in a row now that the unders have been kicking ass. I don't know if it was 12-4 or it's something like that. It's like 70% of the unders come in week 1. That's 3 years in a row. I don't know why that is. Maybe because they don't practice with pads and hit each other like they used to. But that's what I take from it, the numbers.
Did you stick with your guns? Because you said you were notoriously and overwhelmingly an unders player.
Oh yeah, and like a jackass, I gave 2 overs.
You gave out 1 over, yeah, 2 overs, and both ended up in the wrong column.
I'm back to unders where I belong this week. You'll see.
Okay, all right, sounds good. And on the college slate, Mike, anything? I mean, we saw a lot of games, so-called cupcake games. We have some interesting games, and we're going to analyze one of them here, which involves what could be the most surprising team by far of any that we've seen, certainly through 2 weeks. They are the University of South Florida. They take on the University of Miami, who, of course, prevailed over Notre Dame in week number 1 and then kind of got a pass there. Although it took them a while to get rolling against Bethune-Cookman before they eventually buried them. That's an interesting matchup that we're all going to handicap. Anything else that struck your fancy? Because we have a couple of games, and one of them is going to be one of my electives here. Georgia goes against Tennessee coming up this week. Any definitive conclusions or insights or anything that you're looking at in terms of a trend that we might be able to embrace and make some money with on the college scene?
Yeah, I gave it out to you last week when we were talking on the other show that over 30-point favorites seem to struggle. Even though you get that mismatch with all the NIL happening to the Power 4 conferences, those teams that play these 1AA teams or FCS teams, and then all of a sudden you see these big numbers, and for the most part they struggled. Those over 30-point spreads didn't struggle. Texas Tech plays 48.5, gets out to a 48-0 lead and plays a 14-14 second half and doesn't cover. It's a little bit odd, but the game that we're going to talk about, I think, is a team to talk about. A dominant win over Boise State. They head into the swamp and win. Alex Golesh, what he's doing at South Florida, people better keep an eye on him, because I'll tell you, he's the next coming. Plays very fast. Team plays for him. Very humble in his win, saying where his roots came up from high school football coaching, that he's all about his assistants. Great attitude, team-oriented guy. And the quarterback's getting it done. And they had some big plays in that game. And maybe Florida kind of handed it over a little bit to him. But, man alive, I'll tell you, I think South Florida is a team to reckon with. And I think with a win this week, I said this before, even with a loss or two, I think they still get in the tournament. They'll be the non-Power 5. It won't be Boise State because they beat them. It'll be South Florida representing those non-power conferences. So I find this game to be very fascinating. Game I might want to go to if my schedule permits. But yeah, it's Miami hosting South Florida should be very interesting. And then the Tennessee-Georgia rivalry comes back up. Georgia with 2 no covers, Tennessee with 2 covers. Georgia's getting a couple points, laying points on the road at Tennessee. Joey Aguilar, a big situation here. These are the games, rivalry games, set as you want some playoff spots. So I think what I saw last week was kind of the teams that won should have won. Michigan took it on the chin on one of the games. I was very surprised how Michigan got beat up front. Oklahoma punched them in the mouth pretty good. I'm a big guy on the line of scrimmage on both sides. I think everybody loves the fantasy type players, quarterbacks, receivers, running backs, all that stuff. Give me the offensive line play. That's what I like to watch. When I was with the Giants, when I went to practices, that's where I studied. And I see the teams with the good offensive lines are the teams that kind of stay healthy, kind of dominate. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's what I saw a little bit. That Michigan took it on the chin because they couldn't block Oklahoma.
Well, it was another one of your theories that was applicable there because Moore, the coach of Michigan, really seemed to have Bryce Underwood somewhat under wraps, and then he was running the ball so frequently that you were looking at 9 or 10 guys pretty much in the area of the box, and they couldn't run a ball, and then they were putting immense pressure on Underwood as well. And he goes 9 for 24 in a ball game, missed a couple of passes that could have put him right back in it, and after being seemingly overwhelmed by Oklahoma's defense in the early stages, I thought Michigan had some chances to come back and really were compromised by their coach, who's now going to miss the next couple of games due to suspensions for things that happened, 2 years ago while Harbaugh was there. So we'll see how that impacts Michigan. But a very deflating performance, I thought, overall by a guy who's getting paid $10 million a year. To his credit, he owned up to it and was on social media saying, hey, don't blame this guy, don't blame that guy, blame me. But, he had some chances in that ball game that I thought, if you are this $10 million man, maybe you complete them. But you were talking about how the first time these guys have to go on the road against good competition, it applied to Arch Manning at Ohio State, and we saw the same situation kind of dredge itself up there with Bryce Underwood going on the road in Oklahoma. Anything stand out for you, Frank, on the college scene last week? Anything that you zeroed in on?
I was really happy to get a win on Oklahoma since I haven't had many wins as of yet. But also, I was surprised to see South Florida beating Florida for sure. So it's pretty interesting to watch them 2-0 rolling into Miami here.
Yeah, I love the look on the. I've always been kind of an anti-Gator because I was associated with the program for so many years, and there was a decent rivalry, a respectful rivalry, although intense, with and Florida State. We always loved Bobby Bowden. He was so gracious and so much fun to talk to. And we always hated the Gators, going all the way back to Charlie Pell and the Pell Grant scandals and all the different things there. Certainly when Urban Meyer was coaching there was even more reason to have a lot of acrimony towards the Florida Gators. They were so sanctimonious about everything for us here in South Florida. And the holier-than-thou approach certainly was offensive to us. So nothing makes me happier than seeing Jerry Jones miserable in the Dallas Cowboys suite on a losing effort and seeing the Gators getting destroyed. I thought there was a ray of hope there for Napier and company. And then that last drive, what was appalling if you were a Gator fan. And did you see the look on their faces, Mike? I don't know if you caught the end of that game. Yep. All the Gator fans are like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Like they just walked out of an IRS audit. And there's nothing more satisfying for me than to see that happen, especially after the Gators, off that big win over Long Island University, 55-0, had catapulted themselves into the middle of the top 25 and now quickly falling into disfavor. All right, let's get into it. You guys ready to get it on? The games that we're going to do, well, all three of us are going to do starting out. And Steve's on top of this. We've got South Florida Bulls 2-0 against the Miami Hurricanes. This game is in South Florida at Hard Rock Stadium. That is a very hefty price on the money line. And this is a game where 17.5 points looks really attractive to me. Let's start with you, Frank. I don't know if you're embracing this whole South Florida Bulls Cinderella story so far, but they beat Boise State as big underdogs and then giant underdogs going into that game in the Swamp. Almost an impossible place to come away with a win when you're that kind of underdog and probably looking at a big talent differential. Can they make it 3 in a row in terms of covering, and do you give them any shot to win the game? What are your thoughts on this one?
I don't give them much of a shot of winning the game. Last year, the score was Miami 50, South Florida 15. And USF did play a great defense. You know, they let up 7 points to Boise and only 16 points to Florida. But I think Miami at home, I think they're still going to score their 30 points. I see this as like a 30-20 type of game. The over-under is 56.5. And I'll take USF plus the 17.5. I think anything over 17 is pretty much gravy. I really think the spread should probably be like, 15 or so. So I think there's a good value play on USF.
I'm with you on that, Mike. What are your thoughts? I have a suspicion. I know what direction you're going to go
Yeah,
in,
I have
and
a
this is dangerous. We may all be in unison on this.
that's right. It is scary.
Yeah.
I have a tendency to agree with Frank here and you, Jeff. I just think the number when it came out, I always kind of give me, and I'm usually pretty good, been around this racket for about 35 years. I'm usually pretty good at being close to the line. This one, I was off by a touchdown. I really thought Miami was 10 and a half tops, and now it's moved up. They're better. The smart money, as we say early in the week, at 16 and a half came in on Miami. I actually saw ESPN bet this morning rolling out an 18 and a half, which was mind blowing to me. So I won't be surprised if we're on the wrong side of this because that's what the line's telling us and the fact that we're all together on it. But I'm not going to be tricked. I like what Golish is doing there. I think they're going to be in this game. I don't know that they win. I'm with Frank on that. But I think 17 and a half on this number was a startling line right away. And if we weren't picking this as a common game, I probably would have put it out there. So you're striking one of the games I actually like this week. I actually bet it at 16 and a half. I did bet it again at 17 and a half. And if it goes to 18 and a half, I'll bet it again. You're going to have to prove me wrong like this. I just feel the quarterback, veteran quarterback, tough, big, and strong, can play with the Miami-style athletes. Their defense showed they could play in the game. Everybody's all over Lagway in Florida, holding them to only 16 points, field goals. There's something brewing in South Florida. There's a nice vibe there. I just think they keep it close. I'm going to say that. And I can tell you this, that money line only getting 520 on a 17.5 point underdog is short too. That should be 8-1 normally. So that'll tell you where we're at with that. So that 9-1 usually is 11, 12 point favorite. So the equivalent there is telling you that some money's coming in on the money line also on South Florida. So I'm going to grab 17.5 with you guys.
I don't know if I have the cojones to go ahead and take South Florida on the money line, but I'm certainly I'm with both of you guys. Going to go ahead and grab the 17 and a half points with South Florida. I'm like you, Mike. When that line came out, I wasn't startled by it, but I was a little bit surprised because you saw a big point spread being accorded South Florida in the Boise State game, a big point spread being given to them. I think it might have gone off 18 and a half. That game against the Florida Gators. Not an easy thing to do. And then what I really was impressed by, you mentioned the good coaching. After playing the Gators really tight, and they had a lead in the fourth quarter, and they coughed it up, and it looked like one of those games where, as well as South Florida acquitted itself, they were going to come away with a 16-15 loss and then walk out of there with a moral victory possibly, but also with a 1-1 record, and that they were able to bounce back, and they kept their composure in that final drive and put things together while the Gators were penalized a couple of times, some really stupid stuff. A guy spits on a guy, a la Jalen Carter, and those personal foul penalties combined with some other things accorded the opportunity for South Florida to rally. They still had to execute some plays to make it happen, and they go down there and kick a game-winning field goal with no time left on the clock. Very, very impressive from a composure standpoint. The other thing I'm looking at, too, you mentioned the final score was 51-15. Last year, the Hurricanes ran away in the second half with a superior cast of characters. Now, let's not forget, they also had the number one drafted player in the NFL draft, Cam Ward, and he was Helen Keller on my all Helen Keller team, a miracle worker. It was like Anne Bancroft out there saving Mario Cristobal. So a couple of things really appeal to me about this point spread. Number one would be the Cristobal factor, which we, I think, decided was worth at least 3 points a game. So it's almost as if you're getting 20 and a half in this one, nearly 3 touchdowns. And while Carson Beck has played really well, if you looked at the first half of that ball game between South Florida and Miami last year, the halftime score was only 22-15. So the Canes came back and rallied and shut them out in the second half of that game to run away and make it look like a blowout. But my recollection was I was stunned also to see how well South Florida was staying in that game in the first half. They may not have had the horses to sustain it last year, but it looks like they do this year. So I'm going to go ahead like both of you guys. And as I said, this is frightening for the Break the Bank backers out there and the people that want to get an opinion. Because not only is Frank G on the South Florida Bulls with 17 and hook, not only is Mike Jones on the South Florida Bulls with 17 and hook, but I'm throwing my hat in the ring there too. So we're all in unison, guys. I mean, I don't know. How do you feel about that, Frank? Is that a good
official? It's an official 10-star lock now that the three of us are.
Yeah, we're going to the post with Secretariat here in the Belmont Stakes. But I don't know that South Florida can win the game outright. I mean, you do have to lay 9-1 on the money line. But with the Hurricanes, you're only getting 5-1, as you said, Mike. If you're taking the
Yeah.
South Florida Bulls to win the game outright, that may be a little bit sketchy. But certainly it's attractive and appealing to grab 17.5 points. So all three of us in the books there. South Florida plus 17.5 over the University of Miami in our mandatory college game, our community college game pick. All right, we're going to move to the pros here, Steve. And we've got first up Green Bay and Washington. That's tomorrow night. Green Bay is laying 3.5 points. That line was originally, I think, 1.5. Commanders, you're very familiar with their opener, Mike Jones, because they took on your beloved New York Football Giants. And the Giants laid a Rodin-sized egg. I mean, this was one giant egg. Russell Wilson looked bad. Already people calling for Jackson Dart maybe to get a start. I saw Rex Ryan saying, hey, what do you got to lose here? It doesn't look like you're going to do anything with Russell. I'm not sure I'm ready to throw in the towel on Russell Wilson as a starting quarterback. And I'm imagining Brian Daboll didn't really consider that all too heavily. But the Commanders' performance against the Giants was convincing. Was it convincing enough for you to go ahead and take 3.5 points with them going against the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau?
Well, let me give you this real quick. I watched the all 22 tape consistently about how bad my team was. And as bad as my team was, the Commanders were pretty good. Jaden Daniels, I've always thought should have been the best player in the draft last year. I thought he was a better quarterback than Caleb Williams. I think he proved it with how far he took the Commanders. This is a very interesting game. I like the hook here. I just think that Green Bay, a lot of talk. Everything's about Micah Parsons this, Micah Parsons that. Green Bay's winning the Super Bowl. Give me all that hype. I'm going to go the other way, and I'm going to say that somehow, some way, Washington keeps it close and may even win the game. I just think I know that traveling on a Thursday game, short week, always favors the home team in this spot. I think that's one of the reasons why we're seeing 3.5. I'm going to take my chances with Washington. I was really, really impressed with what they did on both sides of the ball at the line of scrimmage, and that's where Green Bay kind of dominated Detroit. I don't think they have that edge. And if I had to look at it, plays with their feet, loves is a mobile quarterback, but not like what Jaden Daniels provides. A little bit more. I think they'll be on the better pages with McLaurin this week. I just like what Washington is doing there. I was highly impressed with the victory, the way they steamrolled us last week. We were never really in the game, dominating both sides of the line of scrimmage. Giants ran 13 plays inside the 10-yard line and walked away with 3 points. When you have that kind of goal line defense, clear domination, Dan Quinn's got them going. I just think it falls over here on a quick bounce week. Green Bay's got all the hype. Give me Washington plus the 3.5.
All right, Mike Jones going with the dog here, taking 3.5 points with the Washington Commanders. Frankie G, what do you think?
I'm thinking Packers defense played really well last week, only letting up 13 points to the Detroit Lions. The Packers have beat Washington 6 in a row now, and Washington has lost 7 of 8 tries going into Lambeau Field. In 2024, Washington was ranked 30th against the run, and I think Green Bay's running back Josh Jacobs, he's going to have a big game, and I'm going to pick the Packers to cover the spread 28-17, and I'm also digging the under 48.5, so I'm going to throw my one elective game out there too.
Well, and naturally, you've gone against what you did last week and gotten back on your horse there and using your theory that unders are the play, and they certainly were in week number 1. Mike, I think we're going to outflank you, Frank G and I, because I'm going by the eyeball test. I mean, you saw all this paralysis by analysis you see on these handicapping shows, and they're quoting sabermetrics and analytics and all these different things. And you got guys talking about average depth per target and things like that, stats that I never even heard of before. I'm just going by the, this is what I saw. I saw Green Bay just throttle the Detroit Lions. I'm not ready to write off the Lions. There are many people that think that the Lions wouldn't be as good this year because they lost their 2 coordinators, Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. Johnson coaching the Chicago Bears, which we saw, unfortunately, his team fall there in the Monday night game in the late going against the Vikings. But it did look like he had ignited a little bit of a spark, at least for most of that ball game, in Caleb Williams. So as great as he was with that Detroit offense, it looked like he may be able to impart some of that with the Chicago Bears. Is he a significant loss for Dan Campbell and the Lions? Maybe so, but not significant enough for me not to consider that what Green Bay did to them, both defensively and in putting up their 27 points. Aaron Glenn, of course, what was the defensive coordinator for the Lions last year when they went 15-2 in the regular season and were a dominating team. I'm not sure that those two departures are enough to convince me that the Lions were as bad as they looked in having their score doubled virtually, or actually more so, 27-13 against the Green Bay Packers. The Packers look great. They're at Lambeau Field. You mentioned a key stat there. I think it's 6 in a row that they've taken over the Commanders at Lambeau Field. So they've been dynamite at home, fueled by a new wave of enthusiasm. Micah Parsons wasn't a huge factor in that game, but he did get a sack, and he's probably going to play more snaps because he was dinged up a little bit going into that one. I wasn't certain that he was going to see action at all. I think he was in for about 30 snaps. But I think in terms of belief, Mike, I know you're also a backer in the idea of team mentality. Did that acquisition not convince you and make you think that the Packers would rally around us, thinking, and you know how it is. I mean, you were with the Giants there, and you get a talent like that on a roster when you already had a pretty good team. Does it not make you think, okay, we're totally being backed by the front office here? They're all in. We're committed. I think it sparked a little enthusiasm in the Green Bay Packers that showed up against the Lions in week number 1. Very impressed by that victory. I'm going to go ahead, and while the hook is like a gaff. If you're out there on a fishing trip, it can go like a knife in your back. The 3 and a hook is a little scary, but I'm willing to go ahead and risk that and say Packers minus 3.5 over the Washington Commanders in this ball game. So we have Frank and I are in agreement, and Mike, you're of course the Ojan provocateur, and going the other way with the Washington Commanders, who you can make a case for. I don't think this game's any cinch, but
No,
yeah, you can definitely make a case for the Commanders in this one. I just think Green Bay was among the, if not the most impressive team in week number 1.
I agree with you absolutely. The Micah Parsons deal does change the whole locker room, aura around the Packers, but everybody sees that. My thought is this: what would the line be without that dominating win? I thought the offensive line changes for the retirement of Frank Ragnow, the center for Detroit, obviously was in effect. They got blasted on both sides of the ball from guys. Kenny Clark wasn't there because he was in the trade. Guys that they dominated the years before. So I think that Detroit's going through changes. 2 new offensive and defensive coordinators are different. The Lions line went down to 8.5. 8.5 wins now, from 10.5 to 8.5 after this loss. So maybe everybody's thinking Detroit isn't that good. Maybe the Giants aren't that good. We already know that. I just look at this. Washington has been there. They got to the championship game. I like the edge at quarterback in this spot. I like the Terry McLaurin and the acquisition of Deebo Samuel. I think they'll be able to do a little bit more against Green Bay than Detroit did. Just find that hook is a big thing with me. You get to overtime, you get that 3-point spread, a late game field goal wins it. I feel like a win with 3.5. I like that the line went for 1.5 and over 3. That tells me it's a lot of money coming in on Green Bay. My guys in the desert don't lose. Those guys out there. So my thought is give me Washington. I'm just going to hold true on this one.
Always tempting to take the points there, but I think the Lambeau leap will be in effect there. We'll see a bunch of those, and I think the Packers are going to find a way to win this game and cover the spread. All right, our final mandatory game, community game, is one of the marquee games and a great matchup here. Philadelphia Eagles, Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs beaten by the Chargers in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And we're extremely flat, as we like to say, flatter than a Parisian runway model in the early going in that game. And that's pretty flat, guys, in case you haven't noticed any of these runway shows. And Philadelphia looked really good in beating the Dallas Cowboys. The score, I'm not sure, was indicative of how thorough a beating that was. They ended up winning the game by 4 points at home in their initial outing of the season. Philadelphia owned Kansas City not that long ago. We were looking at the Super Bowl. 40-22 was the final there. Huge differential. Jalen Carter didn't play in their season opener because the spitting incident 3 seconds into the ball game. An act of devout stupidity and classless move by a guy who's been in many jackpots, overlooked by the National Football League, and might have affected his drafting status. And it was another luck out Seems like Philadelphia's had a couple of those where guys have gotten in a jackpot before the draft and saw their status drop, and Philadelphia was able to snare them. They have him back against the Kansas City Chiefs, who didn't look great in week number 1 against the Chargers. What are your thoughts there, Frank? Can Philadelphia continue what has been a little bit of a mastery there over the Kansas City Chiefs of late?
It's going to be a good game. A rematch of the Super Bowl. Kansas City has won 16 of 19 at home. Obviously, they're really tough to beat at home. It's only the third time that Patrick Mahomes is an underdog at home. And Kansas City has a shaky offensive line. And in that Super Bowl, Mahomes was sacked 6 times. And I think the Eagles have a better O-line, a better D-line. And I really like the balanced attack of Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley. I'm going to roll with the Eagles, put my money on the Eagles. I'm thinking like 27-20, Eagles by 7.
Okay, Frank has the Eagles by a touchdown. They're only laying 1, so well above the cover. You won't have to sweat that out. Mike, what do you think? Philadelphia Eagles, Kansas City Chiefs. We know, the Chiefs getting off to an 0-2 start. Well, what are we talking about here? The Bengals, for God's sake? That would be a little bit surprising, but nonetheless, playing good competition. What are your thoughts about the Eagles and the Chiefs?
I just see something on this line that tells me something's up. Patrick Mahomes is a home underdog. Give it to me. I think the last time I saw this, I had black hair, not gray. I just look at this real easy. I get a guy at a home dog coming off a revenge factor game. I know Worthy's not going to be there, separated shoulder on probably a play that might have decided that game, as crazy as it sounds. They lose by 7. Xavier Worthy, a big part of that offense, goes out in the first series, bumping into on a crossing route into Travis Kelce and separates his shoulder. They have the same amount of time to prepare for this. I know their game was in Brazil. I think that's kind of a distraction for the Chiefs. Don't see the Chiefs going 0-2. I think the revenge factor plays a part in this. The new left tackle, Josh Simmons, is a player. I know he's highly regarded by certain draft picks I know. Played okay in the first game down in Brazil. I just think Kansas City's going to be ready for this. Andy Reid going up against his old team again. I just see a Kansas City pulling out. I think Mahomes puts it on his back and gets it done here.
All right, Frankie and I are like a tag team wrestling tandem here going against you on this one because I'm going to go ahead and cast my ballot here for the Philadelphia Eagles, just laying a 1 point. Eagles 4-1 on the road against the spread the last 4 times and road games. 4-1 the last 5 road games. So they're effective in this spot. I was really impressed with them in week number 1, beating the Dallas Cowboys in the fashion they did. Kansas City Chiefs, sluggish start. They don't have Xavier Worthy necessarily. He's listed as questionable. And you know what's missing? It's like Major League Baseball these days, guys. If you don't have the home run ball, we saw a pathetic Dolphin performance because they're using Tyreek Hill as a possession receiver. If you don't have the ability to throw the ball deep and make some big plays, I think that's really going to compromise Kansas City's chances. Going against Kansas City at home with Mahomes, especially coming off that loss and the possibility they fall to 0-2, very prohibitive. But I'm with you, Frank. I think the Philadelphia Eagles have the goods to do this. They are the current favorite to win the Super Bowl. Kansas City drafting in there a little bit behind them. And after the odds that you're seeing for both Buffalo and Baltimore. So I'm thinking the odds makers are right on this one. Philadelphia laying 1 on the road is not too much for me. I think they win the game, and I don't know if they win it by a touchdown, but I think they're going to find a way to go ahead and defeat the Kansas City Chiefs, and that the Chiefs are going to have to do a little bit of re-examination. So we're 2-1 on that one. Frank and I both saying Philadelphia Eagles lay to 1 point. Mike Jones, Mr. Underdog, is going ahead and taking the point and thinking he is salivating as to what Patrick Mahomes is going to be able to do to these teams. All right, we're going to take a quick break here. Rebet, one of our fine sponsors. This is a great place to place all of your wagers. We're going to get a word in for Rebet and give you guys a chance to just right on your screen. You can just scan this thing with your phone, so get ready. Get your phone out there. Get your scanner contraption ready to go, and you'll be signed up for one of the great wagering opportunities that you can possibly have. And you only have to be 18 years old to sign up for this. So quick word about Rebet and our good friends at Joe B's, and then we'll be back and have our elective games coming up as we try to help you guys break the bank right here on Bleacher Brothers.
Amazing prizes. Hundreds of Rebet, the ultimate experience.
Joe Bees. The bees collect the pollen, bring it to Joe, he packages it, and he gets it to you. It's simple, 100% natural, and it's good for you.
There's only one place to get Joe Bees, and that's from me. Joe B.
If you want to look and feel good, call 877-300-56.
Yeah, that's some good stuff. I have some right here, you guys. Frank, if you want to just get some revitalization here, a couple of these capsules every morning, they're absolutely fantastic, and you'll be jogging, and running around, kicking a football around, going out playing some tennis, and who knows? I mean, maybe resurrect your whole athletic career. Joe Bees, great product, and you just have to log on to joebees.com, and you can get that. All right, now that we're revitalized, guys, right? We have our elective games coming up here on the show, and this people, if you're not familiar, could be college, could be pro. We just I know, Frank, you already popped one out there. Maybe you can give us a little bit of logic here on your idea of the under in the Green Bay Washington game. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, I like the final score to be 28-17, and that equals 45, and the over-under is 48 and a hook. So I just think that's my play, buddy. The under. Easy math for you.
Okay. I mean, it's going to be close, but they always are. And you're saying go with the under at Green Bay and Washington. That's your first of your free selections. What do you say, Mike? What are you looking at for your first pick?
I'm going to go Saturday. I was 2-0 2 weeks ago on Saturday. We'll go to a college game. I'm going to Texas Tech. Love it. I think they've got something brewing down there. I think they're going to be a real contender in the Big 12. I know they have a really good situation with NIL. They had, I guess, they ranked it the third best transfer. Oregon State on a little downer. Lose their coach 2 years ago. Haven't really bounced back. Smith went to Michigan State. Struggled this week, off to an 0-2 start. Struggling on the defensive side of the ball. Texas Tech averaging over 65 points a game. I just think the 23.5 is not going to be enough here. Don't usually like to lay double digits like this, especially in the 20s, but I just think this is one of these games where this could be over by halftime, maybe like similar to Oregon, Oklahoma State last week. I'm going to take Texas Tech minus 23.5.
Okay. I kind of like this game a little bit. I'm not necessarily in love with it, but I'm going to take a shot here with Tennessee in their matchup against Georgia. Tennessee's getting 3.5 at home. Tennessee opened up with a win over Syracuse. I don't know that that's such a great distinction since Syracuse staggered around there and required overtime at home to beat UConn the ensuing week. So they were 7-point favorites in that ball game after getting spanked pretty good by Tennessee in the season opener. It took them a life and death struggle to get home on top. They did end up winning that ball game and pushing on the spread. I think it was 7 when it went off at post time, Syracuse and UConn. So the question of who did Tennessee beat remains kind of open. Georgia, though, I mean, two really non-distinguishable victories, including last week over Austin Peay. So they haven't really played any legitimate competition. They move into SEC competition. Lost a lot of guys on the offensive side of the ball this year. I don't know that they're even as strong defensively. I'm thinking going into Knoxville is not going to be the easiest of places for them to go. And I'm going to go ahead and take a flyer with the 3.5. I like Tennessee to go ahead and prevail in that spot. And maybe even win the game outright. Might be worth a sniff on the money line. But I believe getting 3.5 with Tennessee would be a favorable play. And so that's going to be the first of my free selections there. Tennessee plus 3.5 over Georgia. And I think, Mike, you also like that game. Is that going to be one of your picks?
I do. Yeah, it's not one of my picks, but it's a game I'm looking at. And I looked at it early on. I got 4. Actually 5. 4.5 when brought it up to 5. But, yeah, I just think Tennessee's had 2 covers. Georgia's run a little sluggish. I like Tennessee at home in this spot. Just the home dog kind of gets me, always lights me up in the big SEC rivalry games as this one is. So I'm with you.
Okay. All right. So is that going to be one of your plays or?
No, if we go for my second play, I'm going with Frankie. I'm going to go to the NFL and take a hard look at Frankie's boys. Jets were very impressive, putting over 500 yards against a tough Pittsburgh Steelers defense. Aaron Rodgers comes in and does him a little bit wrong. 4 touchdown passes, a game the Jets covered. Jets Buffalo rivalry's been one of those heated rivalries. I get a home dog that played very well. Fields looks like he could be a problem for the Buffalo pass rush with his mobility. If the Jets offense can hold up like the way it did against Pittsburgh, which people look at Pittsburgh front as being a little bit more lethal toward Buffalo. I think Buffalo showed some secondary lapses. Maybe Garrett Wilson can get going a little bit. I'm going to take my chances with the 6.5 with the Jets and go with the home dog in a rivalry type division game.
You're giving me hope, Mike. I like this.
All right, where are you going for your second selection here, Frankie?
Going to be my best bet of the week. Vikings -3.5 to the Falcons, over under 44.5. I know Atlanta's quarterback is Michael Penix. He played really good last week. He's got he's got great offensive weapons and all. But in 2024, the Falcons let up 4.5 yards per run and 4.5 yards per each run. I'm sorry. Excuse me. I'm tripping on my words here. But the Vikings are really excellent at home. You're going to have the good crowd. They got one of the best defenses in the league. I think they're going to be able to run the ball since, the Falcons defense is kind of Swiss cheese on the run. J.J. McCarthy came back in that fourth quarter. Thank God. Got me another win, kicked some ass, couple touchdowns. And I think this is a J.J. McCarthy coming out party. And we're going to say another 28-17 score. I got a lot of 28-17s over here. I'm just realizing.
Yeah.
That's my best play, Vikings.
Vikings. All right. Sounds good. I'm going to go ahead. I stole this one from the professor, a good friend of ours, who's a very astute college football handicapper. I asked him what his best bet of the week was. And I don't know how you feel about this one, Mike. I know you probably have done a little analysis on it. And he loves his best play was Washington State getting 5.5 from North Texas. Washington State getting 5.5 from North Texas. Both these teams are 2-0 so far on the season. North Texas having delayed that kind of number. I've seen it as high as 6.5. I think Washington State has the goods to prevail in this ball game. I did a little research on it on my own, and there was nothing that dissuaded me from thinking or made me imagine that we should Baker-act the professor. Usually, if he has these kind of strong feelings about a ball game, I'm willing to go ahead and take a shot with him. It's been very favorable so far this year. So my second freebie is going to be Washington State plus 5.5, which was the last line I saw, and going against North Texas. As the play of the week here from a good friend of ours, a professor, and I'm going to go ahead and solidly line up behind him as well. So there you have it, people. I mean, a full array of ball games. The surprising one, of course, is our unison and unanimous agreement on the UM and University of South Florida game. All of us taking 17.5 points in that one with the University of South Florida, and neither of you guys even mentioned the Cristobal factor. So the fact that we were able to get that kind of conclusion without having to factor in Mario's blunders is certainly is encouraging. And his coach looks great. I love what he's doing there at the University of South Florida. So that should be a lot of fun. One last thing. I don't know. Are you a big boxing fan, Frank G? You follow boxing at all?
Be honest, no, man. I mean, back in the day, we watched some Tyson Holyfield fights and saw the ear biting and all that. But no, I haven't been watching boxing. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, Mike, are you following this? I'm looking forward to it now because
this is
a
the
lot
fight.
of discrepancy on the Crawford-Canelo fight. We're going to be talking about it later on Bleacher Brothers with AJ and his crew, and I'm going to join him for that. And my original thought was, and I've been kind of waffling because we've seen Canelo get away with some real robberies in fights that it appeared he clearly lost. It happened against a guy named Marislandi Lara, who is a Cuban defector who got screwed a few times in his career. Those 3 fights with Golovkin, I think you could have given Gennady Golovkin a nod in all 3 of them if you wanted to. There were other examples of where Canelo really benefited from some very questionable judging. The Adelaide Bird scorecard where he won a fight 118-110 where it looked like he was badly outclassed. So I think he does get the edge there. Crawford is not really immersed in the public culture to the same level that Canelo is. But, I don't know that I can completely discount him. Yeah, you have any thoughts on the fight coming up on Saturday night?
I mean, it's the fight for boxing right now. Crawford has been fantastic. Canelo's a number 1 marketing fighter in the game. So I think it's probably worth a look just to see the excitement and what you're going to see to help bring boxing up. Yeah, I think Crawford's got a real shot in this fight. I watched him fight. Both guys I've seen fight. There's really not much of an edge to either fighter, I would say. And you're right. Well, you're taking a hard look at it. Canelo's caught some breaks, whether it be through judges or fighters in play. But is he preparing for this fight knowing what it's worth, or is he grabbing a paycheck? Where's his mind in the whole fight? I think the psychological aspect of boxing goes to all sports, and it fits the bill here. I think Crawford might realize this is his biggest fight, something to prove. Gun to my head, it would be Terrence. It would be Crawford. That would be where my money would go. But I will be tuning in to take a look at it because it's the fight probably of the decade, I think, right now.
Definitely, as Al Bernstein would say, the great Al Bernstein, longtime color analyst there on ESPN first and then Showtime. And I got to work with Al a few times, and I used to tease him about this because he would always allude to a fight like this as an intriguing matchup. But he would also allude to some prelim with two guys that were making their pro debut as an intriguing matchup, and that was his catchphrase. But this is, as Bernstein would say, a very intriguing matchup. You don't know how the upgrade in weight and moving up two divisions like that, especially, it's not like some guys moving up from 115 and going to say super bantamweight at 122. Which is a big jump for the little guys, but this is a big differential in terms of impact of punches, power punches, and ability to take shots. So I normally would be inclined to say Canelo just because he's more accustomed to this weight, but I don't know that you can discount Crawford. And the real suspect aspect of this is that Crawford is only plus 135. In this fight. And usually you would see a Canelo fight with a much bigger differential in terms of odds. So I'll be looking forward to it too. I'm not sure that I have definitively made my pick yet, but by the time we join AJ and his crew on our Bleacher Brothers show later on tonight, I think I'll have to come up with a definitive opinion. So, all right, both you guys, good luck. We're making. Frankie's on a comeback trail after an abysmal start. Coming
slow
back
out of the gate like Zenyatta.
Your confidence level, though, has ratcheted up significantly, which I find very, very encouraging. And, Mike, you're always great. Thanks so much for being with us. And we will catch you guys again on the next episode of Break the Bank. Our thanks to Steve Luker. Man, fantastic job by this kid, huh?
Luker.
Great job getting us all together. Luker. They're chanting Luker. They're not booing. And for Mike Jones and Frank G out of New Jersey, I'm Jeff DeForest. Thanks so much for tuning in. Glad to get your day started here on the afternoon
Good
session.
luck, fellas.
Big blockbuster run of shows coming up. Lots to come here on Bleacher Brothers. So keep it tuned right here. And I will join you guys again later on, 7:30 on AJ's Big Show. And we'll talk some more about Canelo and Terrence Crawford. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.